Imagine this. You are lying back, eyes closed, breathing slow. Outside your window, the modern world hums. Cars passing, the soft whisper of wind against glass. But here, in this moment, we are going somewhere else, far away, far back, 250 million years back in time. The journey begins quietly, not with a flash, not with a rush, but like slipping beneath a warm blanket of water. The present fades away. The buildings and the streets dissolve into mist. And beneath that mist, the surface of the earth begins to change. Continents slide like slow pieces of a puzzle, merging, pressing together. Oceans shrink, folding into the edges of a single supercontinent. Rivers vanish, mountains rise, and the air begins to carry a different taste, sharper, richer, heavier. We are standing now on the edge of the late Permian world, a time before humans, before mammals as we know them, even before the forests of today. The land here is part of something vast, Pangea, one colossal landmass stretching from pole to pole. Its coasts are washed by the waters of a single endless ocean, Panthalassa. Somewhere to the east lies a smaller sea, the Tethys, warm and shallow, sparkling under a different sun. The sun itself is the same star we know, yet its light falls differently here. There is no green haze of modern forests to filter the day. The air is dry in many places, the sky wide and sharp, and shadows stretch long beneath an unfamiliar canopy of trees. They are not oaks or pines or maples. They are ancient relatives of today's conifers, and stranger still, glossopterids with broad leaves like leather, and towering lycophytes whose ancestors once ruled the Carboniferous swamps. The air is warmer here, and in many regions far drier. The center of Pangea, thousands of kilometers from the nearest shore, is a place of extremes. Days can be baking hot, the nights cool and brittle. Rain comes rarely, but when it does, it comes with violence. Storms rolling across the horizon like black, boiling walls, their lightning splitting the air in blinding sheets. In these first moments, we simply stand in this ancient world. The wind moves through the tall trees, stirring leaves that glint in the light like green gold coins. Somewhere in the distance, a sound, not a bird's call, but something lower, rougher, a reptile's bellow carried across the dry basin. You might notice the air feels heavier here. There is more carbon dioxide than in your time. Plants drink it in, grow tall and thick, yet the balance of life is delicate, fragile, though you cannot yet see why.
We walk now, slowly, over reddish soil. It crumbles beneath your feet, dry and dusty, but with streaks of deeper color where minerals run through the ground. Every step stirs tiny motes into the warm air. Above us, a sky vast and pale in the heat. And far on the horizon, the jagged spine of a mountain range rises like the back of a sleeping giant, the young remnants of collisions between continents. For a moment, just listen. The world is quieter than the present. There are no hums of machines, no roads, no voices. Only wind and the faint hiss of distant waves along a far-off coast. every sound you hear is alive. An insect's wing beat, the scrape of a lizard against bark, the hollow clack of seed pods opening under the sun. Here, in the late Permian, life is everywhere, yet it feels old. Not in the way of age, you know, but ancient in its design. Creatures move with slow deliberation, many armored with plates or ridged with spines, as if the earth itself sculpted them from stone and let them walk away. We will see them soon, but for now we pause. Breathe in the air of this world. Let the red dust settle on your hands. Let your eyes wander across a horizon that belongs to a time so far from ours, it feels like another planet, because in many ways, it is.
The world, 250 million years ago, wears a very different face. It is a face without the scattered continents you know today. No separate Americas, no divided Europe and Asia, no broken necklace of islands in the Pacific. Instead, the land has gathered together, pressed into one immense solid form, Pangea. If you could see it from far above, from the quiet darkness of space, you would see a single continent shaped almost like a great crescent, its spine stretching thousands upon thousands of kilometers. Its eastern edge curves around the warm waters of the Tethys Sea, a bright, shallow expanse where sunlight dances through turquoise shallows. To the west lies the vast, uninterrupted blue of Panthalassa, an ocean so immense that its opposite shore lies far beyond the curve of the earth. Beneath the waves, the ocean floor is young in some places, ancient in others. Great ridges snake across its bed, where molten rock pushes up from the planet's mantle, creating new crust that drifts outward like the slow movement of breath. Elsewhere, deep trenches plunge into blackness, swallowing light and warmth, home to creatures that will never see the surface. On land, the face of Pangea is not uniform. Its outer edges feel the touch of the ocean, moist winds, milder temperatures, the perfume of salt carried inland. But toward the center, it is different. So far from any coast, the heart of Pangea is dry, parched, and lonely. Here, the air carries little moisture. The land bakes under the sun until the rocks themselves radiate heat, shimmering above the ground in invisible waves. Yet Pangea is not just endless flatness. The Earth's skin is folded and lifted in places where continents have collided. Mountain ranges run like great wrinkles across its surface. Some are still young, jagged and sharp, their peaks casting deep blue shadows in the morning light. Others are worn down by millions of years of wind and rain, their slopes softened, their summits rounded and quiet. Rivers carve their way through the land, though many are seasonal, full and strong in the wet months, then shrinking to dusty beds when the rains move on. Some flow into shallow inland seas, others vanish into the earth itself, swallowed by hidden channels and caverns. From above, you would notice colors that are both familiar and strange. The deep greens of ancient conifers and seed ferns, the pale gold of dry grasslands under the southern sun, the rusty reds and ochres of deserts,
spreading like sleeping giants between mountain ranges. And here and there glimmers of white, salt flats that sparkle in the heat, or the snow caps of mountains near the poles. The poles themselves are not frozen wastelands as you know them. The Earth's climate is warmer overall, and though ice exists, it does not grip the land with the same ferocity as in your time. Forests grow further toward the poles, and the summer days there are long and lingering, the sun circling low, painting the land in gold. The face of the earth is still restless. Beneath the surface, the plates move slowly, carrying the continents on their backs like rafts. You cannot feel it in a single lifetime, not in 100 lifetimes. Yet over millions of years, this quiet movement will tear Pangea apart, piece by piece, until the world resembles the one you know. But here, now, in this moment, it is whole. And that wholeness shapes everything. The winds, the seasons, the paths of creatures on land and in the sea. Stand for a moment at the edge of the Tethys. The sand is warm beneath your feet, fine and pale, and the air carries a mixture of scents. The salt of the water, the resin of nearby forests, the faint, dry heat drifting from the interior. Across the water, the far shore is a hazy dream, its mountains softened by distance. This is a world both vast and enclosed, a single land, a single ocean, and the life that stirs upon it. We will walk further soon, but first take a last lingering look at the shape of this ancient earth, committed to memory, for what comes in the ages ahead will change it forever. The land stretches before you, painted in the colors of a world long vanished, reds and golds of dry soil, deep greens of ancient forests, the silver-gray shimmer of salt flats under a high sun. Everywhere you look, the shapes of life are both familiar and strange, echoes of creatures you know, yet altered by the long, patient hand of time. We begin in the forest. The air here is cooler, shaded by tall, narrow trees whose branches spiral upward like slow green flames. These are early conifers, their needles catching the light in thin, glistening threads. Between them grow broad-leaved glossopterids, their foliage dense and leathery, heavy with the warm breath of the climate. Ferns spread across the ground like a living carpet, their fronds arching and curling in slow, graceful patterns. Beneath their shade, fungi rise, strange domes and stalks in pale browns and muted creams, feeding quietly on the fallen litter of the forest floor. Move slowly, and you might hear it. A faint rustle in the undergrowth. A creature emerges, low to the ground, its body long and sturdy, supported by limbs that splay outward before curving down to the earth. It is a Dicynotrodon, a plant-eating synapsid, with a beaked mouth and small tusks glinting in the filtered light. Its eyes are dark and steady, scanning the ferns for tender shoots. It does not run at your presence, but turns away calmly, moving with the slow confidence of an animal that has few predators here. Follow the sound of water, and you come to a narrow stream. On the opposite bank, a small group of procalephonids, lizard-like reptiles with blunt snouts, rest on sun-warmed stones.
Their bodies are patterned with subtle bands of color, helping them vanish into the mottled light. One slides into the shallows, sending ripples across the surface. The water carries the scent of soil, of leaves, and a faint mineral tang of the rocks beneath.
Leaving the forest, you step into the open plain. The change is sudden. The shade is gone, replaced by a wide dome of sky, the sun bright and close. The plants here are lower, sparser. Tough grasses have yet to evolve, but hardy seed ferns and shrubby conifers stand in scattered clusters, their roots digging deep for moisture. In the distance, a herd of parasiosaurs grazes. They are large, heavy-bodied reptiles, their skin rough and knotted with bony plates. Slow-moving, they feed methodically, heads down, tearing leaves with their beaked mouths. From afar, they look like living boulders drifting across the plain. The air shimmers with heat. Above, a shadow moves, wide wings beating slowly. It is an early pterosaur, not yet the masters of the sky they will become in the Jurassic, but already a marvel. Its long tail trails behind it, tipped with a diamond-shaped vein, and its eyes search the ground for movement. Beyond the plains lie the deserts. Here the earth is bare and cracked, patterned with the memory of vanished rivers. Dunes shift slowly under the wind, their edges sharp in the angled light of afternoon. Few plants grow here, only low, wiry shrubs clinging to life in the shelter of rocks. Yet, even in this place, there is movement. A small theracid, perhaps a thrinaxodon, darts between patches of shade, stopping to dig at the sand for hidden insects. Its fur is short, its body low and lean, and its every movement is quick, alert to danger. Night on the land brings its own life. In the forest, the air cools, and the calls of amphibians rise from hidden ponds. Insects hum softly, their wings catching the moonlight. Somewhere on the plain, a predator stirs, sleek and silent, following the scent of prey. Its footfalls are muffled by the dry earth, its eyes catching even the faintest glint of movement in the dark. This is the life of the late Permian land, patient, enduring, shaped by a climate that can give and take with equal swiftness. Every creature, every plant is part of a balance that has held for millions of years, but will soon be tested in ways none of them can yet imagine. Chapter 5. Life in the Oceans. The land fades behind us. We walk across a narrow strip of sand, the grains warm underfoot, until the waves reach and fold around our ankles. The water is clear and calm, tinted with a blue that deepens toward the horizon. Step by step, the sand softens beneath us, giving way to the gentle pull of the sea. We are entering the Tethys Sea, though the great Panthalassa Ocean lies just beyond its embrace. A boundless expanse of water so vast it circles the world. But here, in these shallower waters, life is abundant and vivid. The light of the late Permian sun filters through in soft, shifting patterns, painting the seabed in rippling gold. Just below the surface, schools of small fish flicker like quicksilver. Their movements are sharp and unified, as if some unseen thought turns them all at once. They pass over gardens of crinoids, sea lilies, their long stalks anchored to the rock, feathery arms swaying gently in the current. Nearby, brachiopods open and close with patient rhythm, filtering the water for invisible morsels. We move deeper, and the world grows cooler. The sound here is muffled, only the steady whisper of the water around us, the occasional crack of something shifting on the seabed. A slow shadow passes overhead, a coelacanth, its body broad and heavy, its tail moving with slow, deliberate sweeps. This fish is an ancient design, unchanged for hundreds of millions of years, its deep eyes calm and unhurried. The reef ahead is not the coral reef you might know. True corals exist here, but many of the reef builders are sponges and other organisms that create strange, twisting structures riddled with holes and passageways. Small creatures dart between them, shrimp-like crustaceans, eel-like fish, and the delicate shapes of early ammonoids, their coiled shells glinting as they turn. Further still, in slightly deeper waters, we meet the hunters. A large shark-like fish glides past, its eyes scanning the blue, its mouth a slow curve of teeth. Nearby, a nautiloid moves with quiet dignity, its tentacles trailing behind as its shell catches the dappled light. Every so often, a sudden burst of movement ripples through the water, a chase, quick and decisive, ending in silence. Life here is not limited to the reef. Along the sandy bottom, sea scorpions, eurypterids, still cling to existence, though they are no longer the giants they once were. They move with slow, deliberate steps, their flattened bodies stirring the silt. In the distance, a group of long-bodied reptiles, early ichthyosaurs, rise to the surface for air before diving again into the shadowy depths. The deeper we go, the more the light fades. Colors dull into shades of blue and gray, and the water grows cooler still. Here, strange forms drift in the dark, transparent, pulsing shapes that glow faintly with bioluminescence. In this twilight zone, the rhythms of life are slower, patient, shaped by the steady heartbeat of the ocean's currents. Above it all, the surface shimmers. The world of land and sky is out there still, but here, beneath the waves, time feels different. Every movement is softened, every sound subdued, as if the ocean keeps its own gentle secrets. This is the heartbeat of the Permian seas, steady, ancient, and vast. For millions of years, they have nurtured life in endless forms. But like the land above, these waters, too, will soon face a great change. Chapter 6. The Slow Shadow. At first, there is no clear moment when it begins. The forests still stand. The seas still shine beneath the sun. Creatures still move along their paths, hunting, grazing, nesting. If you were living here, you might not notice it at all. The earth changes slowly, almost invisibly, at the scale of days or years. But deep in its breath, in the turning of its great, slow heart, something is shifting. It begins in the air. The balance of gases, so vital, so delicate, starts to tilt. Volcanoes far to the north awaken, not with sudden explosions, but with long, steady sighs of heat and ash. They open fissures in the land, and through these cracks the earth exhales. Carbon dioxide rises into the sky, invisible yet powerful, thickening the warmth that already wraps the planet. Sulfur drifts upward, weaving into the clouds, casting faint, transient shadows across the land. The oceans respond in their own way. Currents shift ever so slightly, their patterns disturbed by the changing winds and temperatures. Warm water travels where it did not before, altering the homes of countless species. In some places, the sea grows richer, feeding blooms of plankton that turn the water a cloudy green. In others, it grows still and quiet, its oxygen thinning, making it harder for life to breathe. On land, the signs are subtle but steady. In the heart of Pangea, the dry seasons grow longer, rain becomes less certain, falling in fierce bursts and then disappearing for weeks. Rivers shrink earlier each year, their beds cracking under the sun. Some plants, adapted to the old rhythm, begin to fail. The forests thin in patches, replaced by hardier, rougher vegetation. The herbivores follow the greenness as it retreats, their herds moving farther and farther in search of food. The predators follow too, but their numbers thin when prey grows scarce. Some vanish from the land altogether, their voices lost from the chorus of the night. New forms begin to appear, smaller, quicker, able to survive on less, but they cannot yet replace the balance that once was. Beneath the surface of the sea, the shadow stretches further. In the deeper basins, where water moves slowly, oxygen begins to fade. The vibrant reefs dim, their builders weakened by waters that no longer feel the same. Some species retreat to the shallows, others simply fade from the record, their shells settling into the soft silt like forgotten jewels. To most eyes, the world still looks alive, still strong. The mountains stand, the rivers flow, the skies remain bright. But in the quiet spaces, in the soil, in the currents, in the breath of the wind, there is a change you can feel if you pause long enough. A heaviness, a sense that the warmth has a different weight, that the rains are less certain, that the sea's song has shifted to a lower note. The shadow is slow. It does not rush. It settles in year after year, century after century, weaving itself into the pattern of life until it is no longer just a shadow, but the new shape of the world. Chapter 7. The Great Dying. It does not come as a single moment. No single day when the skies darken, where the seas rise all at once. The end of the Permian is not a sudden blow. It is a long unraveling, a slow, deep exhale from the earth that lasts for hundreds of thousands of years. But if you could watch from far above, sped through time, you would see it like a candle's flame dimming, steady at first, then flickering, then gone. The great volcanic fields in what is now Siberia burn without pause. They do not erupt like the mountains you know, sharp and violent, but open in vast cracks that spill molten rock for centuries. The flows spread for hundreds of kilometers, layer upon layer, a blackened skin sealing the earth. And with each breath of fire, the planet exhales more carbon dioxide, more methane, more heat. The air thickens, the warmth grows. In some places, forests wither under skies veiled in ash. Leaves fall earlier, seeds fail to sprout. The creatures who fed on them grow thin, their paths stretching further in search of what is left. In the seas, the change is deeper still. Warmth seeps down through the layers, and the ocean begins to lose its breath. The oxygen thins in the deeper waters. Reefs, so long the gardens of the sea, grow quiet. Shells gather on the seafloor, not in the scattered way of life continuing, but in drifts, like fallen leaves. Many of the ammonoids, the brachiopods, the crinoids, they are gone before the story is halfway told. The rivers run slower, the seasons grow less certain. Predators roam farther, their hunts longer, their bellies often empty. Even the smallest creatures feel the change. The insects, the burrowers, the scavengers in the leaf litter. The chain of life begins to lose its links, and when enough are gone, the whole begins to break apart. And yet, there is no great silence all at once. Life does not vanish in a single breath. It fades, first here, then there, a bird-like call no longer heard in the forest, a glimmering shell no longer seen in the shallows, a shape that once moved across the plains, now only a shadow in memory. By the time the great dying has passed, more than 9 in every 10 species in the sea are gone. On land, perhaps 7 in every 10. The world is left quieter, emptier, as if an entire library of forms and colors has been swept away. And yet, it is not the end. The earth, though changed, still turns. The winds still move. Seeds still find soil. Some creatures endure, small, adaptable, patient. In their quiet persistence lies the promise that life will rise again, though it will never look quite the same. The great dying is not only an ending, it is a pause, a deep breath between the worlds that were and the worlds yet to come.
Chapter 8. Aftermath. The world after the great dying is quiet, almost hushed. The forests are thinner, the plains more open, the seas still shimmering but slower, more patient. Life is sparse, but it is there, stubborn, small, persistent. In the land's open spaces, new plants begin to appear. Ferns, ever resilient, creep across the soil. Conifers grow in scattered groves, their needles catching the sunlight like green fire. Seed ferns, hardy and tough, stretch their roots deep into the earth, finding water where it is hidden. Creatures, too, are changing. Small reptiles, their bodies light and agile, explore niches left empty by the extinction. Therapsids move quietly through the scrub, cautious, alert, yet determined. Even insects, small and hidden, persist, pollinating the few flowers that bloom in these early mornings of the Triassic. The seas are healing as well. Shallow waters fill with plankton again, tiny architects of life, floating like dust in the sunlight. Ammonoids return, coiled shells glinting faintly in the gentle waves. Fish, both familiar and new, glide slowly, exploring the reef remnants that survived the dark centuries. Sea lilies sway in quiet rhythm, reminding the ocean of its age-old pulse, its slow heartbeat beneath the waves. Mountains, once scarred by fire and ash, begin to wear under the patient touch of rain and wind. Rivers find new paths, carving gentle valleys, meandering through plains that once lay still.
Sediment builds, bringing nutrients, creating soil where seeds can root. And slowly, life returns to the land. Night falls softly over this recovering world. The moon casts pale light across the plains. Animals stir quietly, emerging from burrows and nests. The sound of wind through the trees, the rustle of small creatures, the occasional splash in a pond, all remind us that life persists, even when it is fragile, even when it seems faint. Here, in the aftermath, the earth is patient. It has survived a moment of immense loss, and slowly, gently, it begins again. Time stretches forward, a ribbon unbroken. And though the creatures of this world are different from those that came before, there is beauty in the way life adapts, the way it endures. It is a quiet hope, a reminder that even after the deepest shadow, there is light. The earth turns, life continues, and the story of our planet goes on, long and slow, waiting for the eyes that will someday watch, the ears that will listen, and the hearts that will dream.
Chapter 9. The Rise of New Life. Time moves like a gentle river. Centuries pass, yet feel almost like days in this soft, dreamlike world. The earth, once scarred, begins to weave its quiet magic. Life, patient and subtle, finds its rhythm again. Across the plains, the first signs of new ecosystems appear. Small herbivores, light-footed and cautious, graze among the young ferns and low conifers. They move slowly, sniffing the air, ears twitching at the soft whispers of wind or the faint rustle of other creatures. Predators watch from the edges, their eyes calm, their movements deliberate, never hurried, always measured. The forests grow thicker, though still open enough to let sunlight touch the ground. Here and there, seed ferns reach taller, their fronds stretching wide. Insects buzz lazily, pollinating the few flowers that dare bloom in this new world. Their gentle hum blends with the soft creak of tree limbs and the whisper of leaves, a symphony almost too quiet to notice, yet endlessly present. Along the rivers and streams, life flourishes slowly. Frog-like amphibians patrol the shallows, slipping quietly among reeds. Early fish dart between rocks and fallen branches, their scales catching glimmers of sunlight in the moving water. Occasionally, a larger predator, an archosaur-like archosaur, slips through the banks, barely disturbing the gentle flow. The oceans, too, find their rhythm again. Shallow reefs swell with new coral and sponge-like structures, creating sheltered spaces for countless creatures. Ammonoids spiral gently through the water, drifting with the currents, while fish of many shapes glide silently in schools. Even the deep waters, once nearly lifeless, regain faint pulses of movement. Bioluminescent creatures shimmer, leaving soft trails of light in the blue twilight, like stars scattered beneath the waves. Mountains and valleys continue their slow transformation. Rivers meander further, carving gentle channels, nurturing soils that allow the first hardy trees to root and grow. Wind and rain shape the landscape in tiny increments, unnoticed yet eternal. Life learns to follow the rhythm of these changes, adapting quietly to the new patterns of seasons and climate.
Night comes slowly over this recovering world. The sky turns a soft indigo, and the first stars appear, faint but steady. Animals stir in the growing darkness, their movements slow, their breaths even, as if the world itself is inhaling gently. The moon rises, casting pale light across plains, forests, and rivers, touching each leaf, each scale, each feather with silver calm. In this gentle, patient time, the earth teaches a quiet lesson. Life endures. Though it has been broken, though it has lost much, it never truly vanishes. It adapts, it grows, it continues. And so the Triassic unfolds, a slow awakening, a tapestry of small movements and quiet moments. The world is alive, yet restful. It invites you to close your eyes, to drift, to imagine the swaying ferns, the gliding fish, the gentle night, and the slow, patient heartbeat of a planet that never stops turning. Chapter 10. Gentle Giants and Hidden Wonders. In the early Triassic, life begins to explore the spaces left open by the past. Some creatures grow larger, moving slowly, deliberately, their weight pressing gently into the soft earth. They are the gentle giants of this new world. Imagine a vast plain, sunlight streaming in soft gold across low hills. A herd of archosaurs walks quietly, their long necks stretching toward sparse ferns. They do not hurry. Each step sinks lightly into the soil, then lifts without a sound. You could almost feel the rhythm of their movement, like a slow, rolling wave across the landscape. Nearby, small therapsids scurry among rocks and fallen branches. They pause, sniffing the wind, listening to the gentle calls of their kind. Their fur glimmers faintly in the sunlight, a whisper of warmth in the recovering forests. Predators, though present, move with the same careful grace. They do not rush. They observe. They wait. They act only when necessary. Rivers and wetlands are full of quiet life. Amphibians slip along the water's edge, their movements so soft that ripples barely disturb the surface. Fishes glide slowly through shallow pools, their scales catching glimmers of sunlight like tiny stars. Insects hum lightly, flitting among reeds and flowers, their gentle movement a soft percussion in the symphony of the land. And even the night holds wonder. Under the moon's silver gaze, creatures stir quietly. Some archosaurs pad softly across the plains, nostrils lifted to catch the scents of the evening. Small lizards and early croc-like hunters slip along the banks of rivers, alert yet undisturbed. The stars shimmer faintly overhead, reflected in ponds and streams, mirrored by the gentle motion of fish beneath the water. And hidden in shadows, in the quiet corners of the forests and reefs, are wonders almost too delicate to see. Glowing fungi cling to fallen logs, glowing faintly in the darkness. Tiny insects explore flowers that bloom only at night, their petals opening slowly like breathing. In the seas, Soft-bodied creatures drift like ghostly ribbons, moving with the ocean's rhythm, untouchable yet present. Everything moves slowly here, the giant and the small, the predator and the prey, the leaf and the insect all follow the same quiet pulse. It is a world where the heartbeat of life is soft but steady, where the earth exhales and you can almost hear it if you pause long enough, where the slow passage of time feels like a lullaby sung by the planet itself. And in this calm, gentle world, you realize something profound. Life is both fragile and eternal. It bends, it grows, it waits, it whispers to you in the swaying of ferns, the glide of fish, and the soft steps of creatures across quiet plains. And if you close your eyes, you can walk beside them, breathing in the calm and drifting along with the slow, endless rhythm of early Triassic Earth. Chapter 11. Twilight Landscapes. As the Triassic day slowly drifts toward evening, the landscapes begin to soften under the dimming light. Shadows lengthen across the plains, stretching like quiet rivers of dark through the ferns and low conifers. The air cools gently, carrying the faint scent of damp soil and distant waters. Rivers, reflecting the fading sun, shimmer like molten gold, winding calmly through the open land. In these twilight hours, the plains become a stage for gentle movements. A small herd of herbivores grazes slowly, their heads lowering to nibble tender shoots.
Each breath they take sends soft plumes into the cooling air. They lift their heads slowly, ears twitching at the distant rustle of leaves, alert yet serene. Nearby, solitary predators watch quietly from the edges of the forest, their presence calm, almost ghostly. Forests take on a dreamlike quality. Ferns and cycads sway gently in the evening breeze. The tallest conifers catch the last rays of sunlight, their needles glowing faintly in amber and gold. Insects drift lazily through the soft air, their wings brushing past leaves in almost imperceptible whispers. Even the smallest creatures, lizards, amphibians, and early mammals, move with a careful patience, aware of the slowing rhythm of the land. Rivers and wetlands reflect the twilight sky. Shallow waters glimmer faintly, disturbed only by the occasional fish or amphibian. Reeds and aquatic plants sway gently, brushing against one another in silent, graceful motions. The soft splash of a distant fish breaking the surface becomes a part of the symphony of quiet, a natural lullaby that spreads across the landscape. As night deepens, the first stars appear, twinkling softly overhead. Their light mingles with the pale glow of the moon, casting long, silvery reflections across ponds and rivers. Creatures of the night begin to stir. Archosaurs and smaller reptiles move with careful steps along familiar paths. Tiny insects flit across the undergrowth, their movements almost imperceptible. Everything seems slower, softer, as if the earth itself is breathing, guiding the rhythm of life in a gentle, meditative pulse. Even the deserts of the Triassic hold a quiet, slow beauty. Sand dunes, once bright under the sun, now take on muted tones of lavender and gray. Sparse plants cling to life in the shifting soil. Small creatures traverse the dunes carefully, leaving delicate tracks that will be erased by the wind, a gentle reminder of the impermanence of movement. The twilight landscapes are a reminder that life adapts. It persists in every corner, forest, plain, river, and desert, moving with the rhythm of the planet itself. And if you close your eyes, you can feel it, the slow, steady pulse of a world that is healing, growing, and enduring through time.
Chapter 12. The Night of the Triassic. Night falls slowly over the early Triassic world. The sun dips beneath the horizon, leaving a gentle glow that softens hills, plains, and rivers. Shadows stretch and lengthen, weaving quietly among ferns, conifers, and the first emerging seed plants. The air cools, carrying the faint scent of water, soil, and the subtle aroma of plants. It is a world preparing to rest, yet alive in quiet, patient ways. In the forests, the undergrowth begins to shift. Small reptiles emerge from hidden burrows, their eyes adjusting to the dim light. They move with slow precision, pads and claws barely disturbing the soft earth. Amphibians crawl toward the edges of ponds and streams, slipping into the shallows with a quiet splash. Their movements are careful and deliberate, like dancers in a soft, rhythmic ballet. Above, the sky darkens further. Stars begin to appear, one by one, twinkling faintly in patterns that will be repeated for millions of years to come. The moon rises pale and silver, casting gentle reflections across water and glinting off the scales of fish and reptiles. Even the clouds seem to move slower, drifting lazily across the night sky, their shapes soft and changing like slow thoughts in a dream. On the open plains, creatures stir in the cool evening air. Herbivorous archosaurs move quietly, grazing among low ferns and cycads. Their steps are measured, their necks stretching gently toward tender shoots. Occasionally they lift their heads, sniffing the wind, alert to any movement, yet calm, patient, almost meditative. Predators watch from the shadows, but there is no haste. They move like shadows themselves, deliberate and silent, blending with the dimming landscape. The rivers reflect the night sky, shimmering with starlight. Fish glide lazily beneath the surface, their scales catching moonlight like tiny, scattered lanterns. Amphibians and small reptiles pause at the water's edge, drinking quietly, occasionally slipping beneath the surface without a sound. Water plants sway gently, brushing against one another, creating patterns that ripple softly across the reflections above. Even insects play their part in this nocturnal rhythm. Moths and other night flyers drift slowly among the ferns and flowers, their wings barely making a sound. Glow-like fungi cling to fallen logs and tree trunks, casting faint, otherworldly light that hints at hidden movements in the shadows. Beetles move carefully across the forest floor, brushing past leaves and twigs, a quiet percussion beneath the deeper hum of life.
Mountains and deserts also experience the night differently. Sand dunes in the faraway deserts glow silver under moonlight. Small nocturnal creatures wander carefully, leaving delicate tracks in the cool sand that will vanish with the morning wind. Even the rocky highlands, harsh and jagged under the sun, soften under the gentle lunar glow. Small reptiles and early mammals explore caves and crevices, safe in the quiet dark, listening to the heartbeat of the earth around them.
Across the oceans, a quiet rhythm unfolds beneath the waves. Shallow reefs are calm, gently swaying with the soft movement of tides. Fish glide in slow, coordinated schools. Jellyfish-like creatures drift, nearly transparent, their delicate forms glowing faintly as the moonlight penetrates the water. Even the deeper oceans pulse with quiet life, bioluminescent creatures painting the darkness with faint, twinkling lights, echoing the stars above. And all around, the earth itself seems to breathe. Wind passes softly through forests and across plains. Water flows gently through rivers, streams, and shallow seas. Even volcanic landscapes, quiet for now, hold a slow potential, a gentle reminder of the planet's enduring pulse. Life in all its forms, large and small, visible and hidden, moves with the rhythm of the night. It is patient, soft, and steady. As you drift deeper into the quiet world of the Triassic night, imagine walking softly alongside these ancient creatures. Feel the gentle brush of ferns, the faint ripple of water, the subtle warmth of soil beneath your feet. Hear the soft steps of archosaurs, the quiet stir of insects, the delicate sigh of wind through the forests. The night is long, calm, and protective, a lullaby sung by the earth itself. It invites you to breathe slowly, to release tension, and to drift gently into sleep, cradled by the ancient rhythm of life on this recovering planet. Chapter 13. Morning on the Triassic Rivers. The first light of morning creeps softly over the Triassic landscape. It is not a sudden burst of brightness, but a gentle unfurling of pale gold across hills, plains, and the edges of rivers. Mist hovers over water, moving like a slow, silvery curtain, curling around reeds and rocks. The air is cool and still, filled with the soft scent of damp earth, wet leaves, and the faint tang of mineral-rich water. Along the riverbanks, life begins its careful, deliberate motions. Small amphibians slip into the shallows, their skin glistening with dew. Fish glide lazily beneath the surface, scales catching fragments of light, sending tiny glimmers into the water. The river itself moves with quiet authority, meandering gently through the land, shaping soil and stone over centuries, yet in this moment, moving only enough to create a soft, hypnotic ripple. Tall ferns and cycads along the banks sway slowly in the morning breeze. Each frond seems to stretch, reaching for light, yet doing so with patience. The first insects of the day begin to stir. Moths and beetles climb along stems and leaves. Some dip briefly into the water, then take flight, their wings carrying faint hints of dew. Their movements are deliberate, unhurried, part of a rhythm that has persisted for millennia. Herbivorous archosaurs arrive at the river to drink. They move slowly, limbs bending with careful grace. Long necks stretch toward the water, lips brushing the surface. Each gulp is calm, measured, almost meditative. Occasionally, one lifts its head, nostrils flaring, eyes scanning the banks and forests. Predators may lurk in the distance, yet there is no panic, only quiet observation, patience, and slow adjustments. Alongside the river, the forest begins to wake. Bird-like archosaurs, small and delicate, emerge from hidden nests, stretching wings and scanning the lightening canopy. Lizards and small mammals, early ancestors of creatures yet to come, move among fallen logs and leaf litter, exploring the faint warmth of the morning sun. Even fungi, barely perceptible, release subtle fragrances into the damp air, unnoticed by most, yet part of the ecosystem's slow pulse. The rivers themselves are alive with countless small interactions. Snails cling to rocks, trailing gentle slime in winding patterns across mossy surfaces. Tiny crustaceans scuttle along the riverbed, lifting and dropping in soft, deliberate movements. Fish dart between reeds, feeding and gliding in patterns that feel almost like waterborne dance. Even the sediment at the bottom of the river moves imperceptibly, shaped by currents, the weight of passing creatures, and time itself. As morning progresses, the light grows warmer, spreading across distant hills and valleys. Shadows retreat, revealing details previously hidden. Clusters of cycads, the smooth surface of river stones, the faint imprint of footprints left in damp soil the night before. A gentle wind rises, rustling leaves and bending reeds. It carries the sound of water, insects, and distant calls, the soft language of a world fully alive, yet unhurried. Along the farther riverbanks, herds of larger archosaurs emerge. They graze slowly, moving in sync with one another. Each step presses into the soil with careful weight, leaving impressions that will slowly fade with time. Necks bend and rise in measured arcs, eyes scanning for subtle signs of danger, yet calm and serene. Even the predators, sometimes hidden in groves of conifers, act with deliberate patience. They do not rush, do not chase recklessly. Instead, they wait and observe, blending into the soft morning light. Further downstream, marshy wetlands form quiet havens. Soft, muddy banks are home to amphibians that croak faintly in the morning calm. Fishes slip into hidden channels, and tiny insects hover just above the water, wings vibrating almost imperceptibly. Reeds sway in slow arcs, brushing one another softly. The wetlands hum quietly with life, a rhythm so gentle that it feels like the pulse of the earth itself. Bird-like archosaurs begin to glide from tree to tree, their wings cutting through the gentle morning breeze. Each movement is careful, a balance between precision and patience. They land softly among branches, searching for food, scanning for threats, or simply resting in the warmth of light filtering through the canopy. Below them, the forest floor remains a landscape of quiet activity. Lizards flick tongues, small mammals scurry, insects move deliberately, all part of a calm choreography that unfolds without hurry. Even the skies above rivers reflect this slow awakening. Clouds drift in slow arcs, catching the first pale gold of sunlight. Wind stirs leaves and feathers alike, creating gentle, almost musical rustlings. Occasionally, the distant cry of an archosaur breaks the soft morning quiet, a reminder that life continues, alert and patient. And through it all, the river flows, shaping land and life with deliberate consistency, carrying reflections, creatures, and sounds in a continuous, gentle stream. Morning on the Triassic rivers is a meditation in motion. Every creature, every leaf, every ripple contributes to the steady pulse of the world. It is a world in which time slows, in which life and landscape move together with deliberate grace. As you imagine walking along these banks, feel the soft mud underfoot, the faint mist brushing your face, the slow heartbeat of the planet beneath your steps. The sun rises higher, but the rhythm remains calm, steady, and soothing. And if you close your eyes, you can drift with it, carried on the gentle flow of water, life, and the endless unfolding of an ancient earth. Chapter 14. The Awakening Forests. As morning light spreads across the Triassic world, the forests slowly awaken. It is not a sudden awakening, but a gradual unfolding of color, sound, and movement. Mist curls through the ferns and cycads like slow silver ribbons, drifting past conifers with their tall, rigid trunks and curling around the bases of towering horsetails. The air is cool, filled with the gentle scent of damp leaves, fresh soil, and the faint aroma of resin from conifers. Even in the quiet, life hums softly, a slow pulse beneath the stillness of the mist. The forest floor is alive with tiny, deliberate movements. Small reptiles stretch along moss-covered logs, their bodies catching tiny fragments of the emerging sunlight. Amphibians, slick and glistening, slide from hidden burrows toward puddles and shallow streams, tasting the air and water with delicate flicks of their tongues. Insects stir lazily, crawling along leaves or skimming just above the surface of still ponds. Every movement is measured, patient, part of the gentle rhythm of life that has persisted for millions of years. Above the forest floor, the undergrowth begins to shimmer in soft light. Ferns lift their fronds like dancers, unrolling slowly, releasing dew that glistens like scattered pearls. Cycads stretch upward, their thick, segmented leaves catching the sun in muted shades of green and bronze. Seed plants, still new to the world, lean gently toward the light, absorbing energy in quiet, unhurried motions. Even fungi participate in the morning, releasing faint fragrances and sending delicate threads of mycelium through the moist soil, connecting unseen parts of the forest in a network of life and slow communication. From the tallest trees, small bird-like archosaurs begin to stir. Their wings, feathered or partially so, stretch and flex, adjusting to the gentle warmth of sunlight filtering through branches. Some glide from limb to limb, careful to move without startling the forest floor below. They chirp softly, tiny calls that echo through the trunks and leaves, answering one another across spaces measured in meters, but sounding like vast distances in the calm morning. Herbivorous archosaurs venture carefully from shadowed groves. They move slowly, lifting legs one at a time with deliberate weight. Their long necks sweep across the undergrowth, nibbling tender shoots, soft ferns, and low-growing cycads. Occasionally, one lifts its head, nostrils flaring, eyes scanning for subtle shifts in shadows, the presence of predators, the stir of other creatures, or simply the gentle movements of the wind. Even the predators, often camouflaged among ferns and fallen logs, act with patient, calculated grace. They do not rush. They blend into the patterns of light and shadow, moving in ways that almost mirror the swaying of the trees themselves. Along small streams threading through the forest, water becomes a living mirror. Reflections of ferns and conifers shimmer on the surface, disturbed only by the passage of tiny fish or amphibians dipping briefly to feed. Leaves float lazily on the gentle current, turning slowly as they follow the water's patient flow. Occasionally, a small predator, perhaps a lizard or early mammal, dips a claw or snout into the water, creating ripples that spread across the reflections like delicate brushstrokes. Every ripple fades slowly, leaving the scene calm once more, a quiet meditation in liquid form. Deeper into the forest, shadows from massive conifers stretch long across mossy soil and fallen branches. Here, the forest seems ancient, almost sacred in its silence. Soft rustlings betray the movements of tiny creatures, insects brushing past one another, lizards sliding under logs, the faint patter of small mammals exploring fallen leaves. Even the earthworms beneath the surface shift slowly, aerating soil and creating a hidden network of life that feeds and supports the visible forest. Occasionally, a gust of wind passes through the canopy, bending branches in slow arcs. Leaves flutter like quiet applause, creating gentle melodic sounds that mix with distant calls of archosaurs and the soft gurgle of streams. Ferns ripple, cycads sway, and small birds adjust their positions, riding the currents of air with soft, deliberate wing beats. The forest responds in a delicate choreography, each movement subtle, measured, and interconnected. Some of the larger reptiles begin their morning activities at this time. They walk with careful steps through undergrowth, their claws pressing into moss and soil without breaking the calm of the forest. Some graze, others pause to observe, and a few predators follow these motions quietly, blending into shadows with patient calculation. Even the occasional flying reptiles catch early light as they glide silently above the canopy, wings casting long, faint shadows over the slow, deliberate movements of the forest below. Morning light deepens, spilling golden rays through breaks in the canopy. Mist slowly lifts, revealing details hidden in the earlier hush. Dew on fern fronds, the delicate structure of cycads, tiny mushrooms peeking from soil and fallen logs. The air warms slightly, but not too fast, a gradual increase that matches the slow pulse of life in the forest. Bird-like archosaurs call softly, small flocks shift positions, and insects begin their more active flights, all moving in harmony with the light and temperature of the forest. Across the forest floor, small mammals and their ancestors forage cautiously. They move with careful curiosity, exploring fallen fruits, seeds, and insects. Each step is measured, avoiding sudden sounds that could alert predators. Even the tiniest creatures seem to participate in the rhythm of the forest, a meditation in slow motion, their lives intertwined with every leaf, twig, and stone. From the rivers threading through the forest, to the marshes at the edges of groves, to the tallest conifers swaying gently in the morning light, the forest is a living tapestry of slow, deliberate life. Every sound, every movement, every ripple of light and shadow contributes to a rhythm that is steady, soothing, and timeless. If you imagine walking through this forest, feel the soft earth beneath your feet, the gentle brushing of ferns against your legs, the cool mist lifting from the soil. Hear the soft calls of archosaurs, the subtle rustle of insects, the quiet gurgle of water flowing. Breathe slowly and allow the forest to cradle you in its patient embrace, inviting a slow, calm journey toward rest and sleep.
Chapter 15. The Midday Heat. The sun rises higher now, moving steadily into its arc above the Triassic landscape. Light spills across rivers, forests, and plains in broad, warm strokes, bathing the world in gentle gold. Unlike the soft, early morning light, this midday brilliance is rich, enveloping, and steady, not harsh, but filling every shadowed corner with subtle illumination. Mist that lingered along the rivers earlier has begun to dissolve, curling upwards like slow smoke until it merges with the soft heat of the day. The rivers glisten, reflecting sunlight in 100 delicate flashes. Water ripples over smooth stones and bends around submerged branches, moving with measured patience. The slow current carries tiny particles, fragments of leaves, seeds, and insects, each floating along in quiet, deliberate motion. Fishes drift lazily beneath the surface, their bodies catching and refracting light. Even the riverbed itself seems alive, shifting imperceptibly under the weight of water and the passage of creatures. Along the banks, the forest undergrowth basks in this steady warmth. Ferns open fully, fronds stretching with patient deliberation. Cycads lift their segmented leaves toward the light, absorbing energy slowly, rhythmically, like a living meditation. Soft mosses hold moisture in shaded corners, glistening faintly in the sun, while tiny fungi release the subtle aromas of the forest floor. The interplay of shadow and light creates slow-moving patterns on the soil, almost like liquid gold poured across soft earth. The animals of the midday forest move with careful deliberation. Herbivores, archosaurs step through the ferns, lifting legs one at a time, sensing every subtle change in terrain. Their eyes scan for predators, yet there is no panic, only quiet alertness, measured and deliberate. They graze slowly, nibbling at tender shoots, feeling the warmth of the sun on their backs. Occasionally they pause to rest, lowering their heads to sip water from a shaded pool or cool their throats in the gentle river current. Predators watch from hidden groves, blending into dappled sunlight and shadow. They do not rush. They move almost imperceptibly, muscles coiled, eyes tracking potential prey with steady patience. Even when a sudden movement occurs, a fleeing insect, a shifting leaf, The predator adjusts slowly, conserving energy in the midday heat, waiting for the rhythm of life to allow opportunity. Insects become more active in this warm light. Moths and beetles explore leaves and branches, antennae flicking with delicate precision. Dragonfly-like creatures skim the surface of ponds, wings vibrating in invisible patterns. Bees, or small early pollinators, drift from fern to cycad, tasting pollen in soft, deliberate arcs. Their motion is not frantic, but harmonious with the slow pulse of the sunlit forest. Above the undergrowth, bird-like archosaurs glide silently from tree to tree. Their wings cast faint shadows that shift over mosses, ferns, and leaf litter. Calls echo softly, traveling across distance with a calm resonance. Sometimes a young predator, barely more than a fledgling, watches with careful interest, learning to move without startling the delicate balance of forest life. The air itself feels alive under the midday sun. Warm currents rise gently from sun-baked soil and riverbanks, carrying scents of earth, resin, and wet leaves. A soft wind drifts through the canopy, bending branches in wide, slow arcs. Leaves flutter in quiet applause, ferns ripple, and even the tallest trees seem to sway in rhythm with the wind. The sound is subtle, almost imperceptible, yet it forms a gentle music that fills the forest with calm. Along marshy wetlands, amphibians emerge more boldly in the warmth. They move slowly, testing puddles and shallow streams, tongues flicking, eyes scanning. Small crustaceans crawl along river stones, leaving faint trails behind them, while tiny snails cling to moss and rocks, glistening in sunlight. Even these smallest creatures participate in the pulse of life, their deliberate motions weaving into the overall rhythm of the midday forest. Out on the open plains, the heat is steadier, more encompassing. Long grasses sway in slow waves, bending under the gentle sun. Herbivorous archosaurs step across this terrain, legs moving with deliberate weight, each step pressing the earth into memory. Dust rises faintly in their wake, hanging in golden beams of light. Occasionally, a predator appears on the horizon, moving slowly, patiently, calculating distance and angle in a timeless, unhurried manner. Even the rocks and soil respond to the heat. Stone faces warm gradually, releasing faint waves of heat that ripple across the nearby earth. Minerals in the soil shimmer subtly in sunlight, catching eyes for a fraction of a second before blending again into muted tones. These movements are slow, almost imperceptible, yet part of the constant meditative flow of the midday world. From the rivers to the forests, to the marshes and plains, the midday heat transforms the Triassic world. It slows the pace of creatures, encourages measured motion, and highlights the delicate interactions between light, shadow, water, and living beings. Every rustle, every step, every ripple, every wing beat unfolds in careful rhythm. Even as you imagine walking through this sun-drenched world, notice the slow warmth on your skin, the soft golden light falling across every surface. Hear the gentle gurgle of water, the faint calls of archosaurs, the rustle of leaves,
and the slow, precise steps of creatures moving deliberately in the heat. Breathe in the rich, warm air and allow yourself to sink further into the calm, expansive flow of life under the midday sun. Chapter 16. The Gentle Descent of Evening. The sun begins its slow journey toward the horizon, spilling long, soft rays across the Triassic landscape. Shadows stretch languidly from trees, rocks, and the bodies of creatures, stretching across rivers, plains, and forests like gentle ink washes. The light changes from bright gold to warm amber, softening every edge and smoothing every contour. Where the midday heat had dominated, a gentle coolness now begins to seep into the air, drifting softly through leaves and reeds. Rivers shimmer in the fading light, catching the sky's warm hues. The water moves more slowly now, carrying reflections of clouds and shifting branches in delicate ripples. Dragonfly-like creatures skim the ponds with quiet, precise arcs, their wings catching the last sunlight in gentle flashes. The forest undergrowth responds to the evening light. Ferns and mosses shift their subtle angles toward the waning sun, fronds curling slightly in the soft breeze. Cycads lower their segmented leaves, catching cooler air between each section. The smell of damp earth rises gently, mingling with the faint sweetness of blossoms and the subtle resin of conifers. Every movement is slow, almost meditative, as the forest begins its quiet evening ritual. Large herbivores move with careful deliberation through dappled light. Their bodies are long and patient, limbs lifting and setting down in even, unhurried rhythm. Occasionally one pauses to drink from a shallow pool or graze on tender shoots, ears flicking gently to catch faint sounds. Predators watch from the edges of shadow, blending with the dimming light, their movements imperceptible yet precise, waiting for the rhythm of the evening to offer opportunity.
Insects hum softly as they settle into their nightly patterns. Moths drift lazily toward shaded areas. Beetles crawl slowly across leaves and bark, and tiny pollinators begin retreating to hidden nests. Even the forest sounds seem slower, more deliberate. A soft breeze rustles leaves. A distant croak echoes from a pond, and the gentle trickle of water continues unabated, all blending into a calming, rhythmic lullaby. The canopy above glows with amber and copper tones. Bird-like archosaurs glide quietly between branches, wings spreading wide and catching the final sunlight. Some perch atop tall limbs, heads tilted, eyes scanning the forest in calm observation. Young predators stretch, test their strength, and settle into hidden perches, learning to move without disturbing the delicate balance of life around them. Across open plains, the golden light softens even further. Grasses sway in slow, undulating waves, brushing against each other in quiet whispers. Herbivorous archosaurs step carefully, dust rising in gentle curls that shimmer in amber light. Predators move with patient precision, eyes following subtle motions, bodies coiled and relaxed, as if the entire world has slowed in accordance with the descent of the sun. Marshes at the forest edge exhale warmth accumulated during the day. Water lilies tilt gently, reflecting fading light in soft arcs. Small amphibians and crustaceans slide slowly through shallow pools, leaving tiny ripples that fade almost immediately. The air carries a subtle mix of damp earth, algae, and plant sweetness, all mingling in the cooling evening breeze. High above, flying reptiles trace long, lazy arcs against the painted sky. Their wings cast soft shadows across land and water, moving rhythmically, almost meditatively. From this height, the forest and plains seem a unified, breathing organism, shifting slowly with the dying light. Clouds drift lazily, painted in shades of rose, gold, and violet, filtering sunlight into serene, shifting patterns that dance across the earth below.
The slow descent of evening is mirrored in every heartbeat of the landscape. Herbivores graze, predators watch, insects move with gentle intent, and rivers continue their quiet, steady flow. The world seems to breathe in unison with the sun's retreat, each movement deliberate, each sound measured, each color softened. As darkness creeps nearer, the first stars begin to shimmer faintly in the sky. The air cools more perceptibly, carrying the scent of earth and water, mingling with faint floral aromas. Even the creatures adjust to the changing light. Nocturnal life begins to stir. Soft calls from hidden birds, tiny rustles from mammals and reptiles, the faint ripple of amphibians moving in shadowed water. The gentle descent of evening transforms the Triassic world into a slow, breathing, meditative place. Every motion, every sound, every shift in light invites calm, inviting the mind to follow the rhythm of life itself. Imagine walking slowly through this warm, golden forest, listening to the river, feeling the soft earth underfoot, watching shadows stretch and fade, and letting your body relax in sync with the evening's quiet pulse. Chapter 17. The First Light of Dawn. The night begins to soften its hold, and the first whispers of dawn drift slowly across the Triassic landscape. The sky transitions from deep indigo to muted purples and soft blues, a vast stretched canvas welcoming the gentle touch of light. Stars linger faintly, twinkling like distant echoes, while the moon retreats, leaving behind a subtle silver glow that slowly fades into the morning haze. In the forest, shadows stretch and shift, elongating as the low light brushes through the leaves. Every fern and cycad shivers softly in a barely perceptible breeze, the movement slow, rhythmic, almost like the world is exhaling. Soft dew glimmers on the tips of leaves and grasses, tiny droplets reflecting the emerging light in delicate flashes. The air carries a faint earthy scent, mingling with the sweet aroma of flowering plants, damp moss, and the lingering coolness of night.
Small mammals stir gently from hidden burrows, stretching limbs in the dim glow. Eyes adjust slowly to the changing light,
whiskers twitching as they probe familiar paths. The first insects emerge cautiously, wings brushing softly against foliage, creating faint whispers that blend with the soft rustle of leaves. Every sound is measured and calm, a subtle hypnotic rhythm that encourages the listener to breathe slowly, deeply, with ease. Rivers and streams reflect the early light in muted silvery tones, their surfaces moving in gentle undulations. Fish rise lazily near the surface, creating faint ripples that glide outward and vanish quietly. The air above the water carries a soft, fresh scent of wet earth and rippling life. Amphibians adjust to the growing light, moving carefully among reeds and stones, their motion slow, deliberate, and hypnotic. Across the plains, the first herbivorous archosaurs begin to stir. They stretch long necks, lifting heads in slow arcs, nostrils flaring gently as they draw in the crisp morning air. Hooves press softly against the dew-covered grasses, leaving faint impressions that vanish with the movement of the day. Even in their awakening, their motion is deliberate and unhurried, harmonizing with the soft pulse of the landscape itself. Predators, too, adjust to the changing light, muscles rippling in calm stretches. They move silently among shaded areas, eyes attuned to the slightest flicker of movement. Every step is slow and measured, each pause extended, creating a hypnotic tension that blends seamlessly with the soft awakening of prey and plants. Even the most cautious predator moves in quiet, deliberate arcs, as if the entire ecosystem is breathing in unison. Flying reptiles glide through the first slivers of light, wings catching the pale glow in soft flashes. From high above, the forest canopy seems like a rolling sea of muted green, dotted with flickers of motion as birds and early flyers adjust to the new day. The air is filled with the faint, delicate hums of insects, the distant calls of archosaurs, and the quiet whisper of wind through leaves. Every sound, every movement is slow, fluid, and hypnotic, drawing the listener deeper into a state of calm awareness.
In the forest, life stirs with soft, deliberate movements. Small mammals and early synapsids emerge from burrows and hidden dens, stepping onto the dew-kissed undergrowth. Their paws press lightly against fallen leaves and twigs, producing a muted percussion that blends seamlessly with the gentle rustle of canopy leaves overhead. Each movement is measured. Every turn of the head or twitch of a whisker invites slow, meditative observation. Tree ferns and cycads sway in gentle arcs, stretching toward the midday sun. Their fronds rustle softly in the lightest breezes, forming delicate patterns of shadow and gold across the forest floor. Sunlight filters in thin, moving beams, illuminating dust, spores, and pollen suspended in the air. These particles drift lazily, catching the sun in fleeting flashes, like tiny golden fireflies frozen in motion. Every shimmer, every subtle spark of light draws the mind inward, fostering a serene presence. Above, bird-like reptiles and early pterosaurs glide in languid patterns, Their wings extend in wide arcs, catching thermal currents and folding gently as they shift course. From this vantage, the forest appears as an intricate mosaic of life and light, the slow movements of each creature creating a hypnotic, calming rhythm. Even the predators in the trees move with unhurried precision, muscles rippling beneath smooth skin, eyes sweeping the landscape without tension, as if aware of the meditative quality of the day. Along the marshes, the water reflects the sun in delicate, moving patterns. Dragonflies skim the surface, their wings producing tiny flashes that ripple across the glassy pools. Amphibians shift beneath reeds, sliding through cool water with gentle arcs, leaving subtle, fleeting ripples behind them. Tiny fish swim in slow, looping paths, caressing the water with their movements, as though participating in a synchronized dance of tranquility. Herbivorous archosaurs wander across the plains, moving with calm deliberation. Their massive forms sway gently with each step, necks reaching for tender ferns and cycads. The ground absorbs their weight, soft soil compressing and rebounding, leaving ephemeral impressions that vanish as wind or water moves across the land. Herds shift and graze in rhythmic waves, heads lowering and rising in an unhurried cadence, synchronized with the soft sway of grass and the subtle motions of smaller creatures nearby. Predators, patient and poised, remain in shaded areas, muscles relaxed yet ready. Their amber eyes follow the distant herds with gentle intent, not urgency. Each movement, the stretch of a limb, the flick of a tail, the turn of a head, is executed slowly, intentionally, part of the serene choreography of midday life. Even their breathing seems measured, a soft, rhythmic pulse that mirrors the gentle movement of the world around them. The rivers and streams continue to flow with a soothing murmur. Water laps against moss-covered stones and fallen branches, each sound extended, resonant, and calming. Crustaceans navigate submerged roots, leaving trails of tiny bubbles that drift to the surface before dissolving into nothingness. Amphibians glide through shallows, their movement slow and deliberate, each ripple creating a visual echo of the unhurried passage of time. Insects contribute a subtle, ongoing percussion. Beetles crawl along branches, wings tucked neatly against their backs. Moths drift through sunbeams, brushing against leaves, while dragonflies hover, wings vibrating almost imperceptibly. The combined hum of wings, the gentle scrape of claws on bark, and the soft splash of water ripples form a continuous, hypnotic symphony. Across the distant hills and plains, wind carries drifting pollen, spores, and fine dust in slow, spiraling arcs. Sunlight refracts through these suspended particles, casting soft, fleeting prisms of color that dance across ferns, leaves, and the water's surface. Even the smallest motions, dew evaporating, leaves trembling, soil warming, add to the immersive rhythm of life. Everything moves in harmony, a synchronized cadence that encourages calm, measured observation. Herbivorous herds continue their slow migrations. Small archosaurs trot in curved lines, necks reaching toward vegetation in extended arcs. Interactions between individuals are gentle, soft nudges, occasional pauses and slow turns of the head. No sudden movements disturb the tranquility. Every action blends seamlessly into the unhurried flow of the ecosystem. Predators move with precision. Each step is deliberate, controlled, and synchronized with the shifting light and warmth. They stretch, flex, and rotate their limbs slowly, eyes scanning without tension, tails swinging in long, fluid arcs. Even their presence reinforces calm rather than chaos, contributing to the meditative, hypnotic pace of midday. The forest floor reveals intricate life at Ulos Range. Mosses rise from shaded soil, absorbing warmth and moisture in a slow, steady rhythm. Insects crawl over the surface, moving almost imperceptibly, their progress measured and deliberate. Reptiles bask on sun-warmed stones, limbs extended lazily, eyes half-closed, absorbing light, air, and warmth with unhurried intent. Every detail encourages prolonged focus, yet in a soft, relaxing manner that soothes rather than stimulate. Along rivers and streams, the gentle flow of water orchestrates interactions across multiple layers of life. Fish trace lazy loops beneath the surface. Amphibians slide through reeds, leaving ripples that fade gradually. Floating plants drift with soft arcs. The interaction between living creatures and their environment creates a seamless, calming tapestry. The air vibrates with soft sounds, ripples, wing beats, distant calls that together form an elongated, meditative rhythm. In the plains, vast stretches of grass sway in tandem with mild breezes. Herbivorous archosaurs graze in gentle waves, their large bodies creating subtle vibrations in the soil that are transmitted slowly across the landscape. Small insects rise and fall with the motion of grass blades, drifting lazily with minimal effort. Even the smallest movement, like a fallen leaf drifting across soft soil, feels prolonged and intentional, part of the hypnotic flow of life. Above, the sky carries drifting clouds, moving slowly, changing shape with measured deliberation. Sunlight shifts subtly, illuminating different angles of leaves, soil, and water, producing soft transitions of light and shadow. Bird-like reptiles glide in extended arcs, wings reflecting sunlight in soft, elongated flashes. The world feels elastic, as though each moment stretches into the next without hurry, carrying the observer along in a calm, continuous rhythm. In the marshes, amphibians and small reptiles explore gently. Reeds sway under their weight. Water ripples extend in soft, concentric circles. Dragonflies skim the surface, wings producing quiet, rhythmic hums. Tiny fish flick tails in long arcs, leaving visual trails that shimmer before disappearing. Every detail reinforces the sense of gentle, unhurried motion, allowing the mind to settle deeply into observation and relaxation. By mid-afternoon, the Triassic world is fully awake, yet every motion retains its unhurried grace. Predators and prey, insects and amphibians, fish and archosaurs, all move in gentle, extended rhythms. Even the shifting light and warming air enhance the hypnotic pace of life. The entire landscape breathes in sync, a slow, meditative pulse that can be felt in every ripple of water, sway of leaves, and movement of animals. Small details continue to hold attention softly. Dew evaporates, leaving glistening trails that fade in sunlight. Leaves tremble with subtle arcs. Moss absorbs warmth in measured pulses. Every sound, movement, and visual element combines to form a hypnotic, relaxing panorama. By the end of midday, the Triassic ecosystem moves like a living, breathing clock, each motion slow, deliberate, and mesmerizing. Life unfolds in extended arcs, inviting the mind to follow along, slowing with the world's natural rhythm. Every creature, plant, and water ripple participates in the same extended, hypnotic symphony, stretching endlessly across plains, forests, and marshes. The warmth, light, and gentle pulse of life continue, carrying the Triassic day forward, calm, unhurried, and profoundly peaceful. Chapter 19. Afternoon into evening. As the sun begins its slow descent across the Triassic sky, the land transitions into a gentler rhythm. Shadows lengthen across plains, forests, and marshes, stretching slowly like soft fingers reaching across the warm earth. Light shifts from bright gold to softer amber, bathing leaves, ferns, and cycads in muted, warm tones. The air grows slightly cooler, carrying a whisper of the day's fading energy, and inviting all creatures to adopt a slower, more deliberate pace. On the forest floor, small mammals and synapsids begin their measured retreats toward shaded burrows or hidden dens. Their steps become quieter, paws lifting and placing with heightened precision. Occasionally, a small rustle in the undergrowth signals the presence of a cautious predator, but tension is subtle, almost imperceptible, and movements remain deliberate rather than frantic. The interplay of predator and prey becomes a soft, balanced rhythm, each participant moving in awareness rather than haste. Tree ferns and cycads shift gently in the cooling air. Fronds tremble in slow arcs, casting long, intricate shadows across the mossy ground. Sunlight filters through the leaves in angled beams, creating soft patterns on the forest floor. Spots of light flicker as tiny insects drift through, wings catching the glow and producing delicate flashes of motion. Every detail, every movement contributes to a seamless, relaxing visual flow. In marshes and shallow pools, water begins to take on a warmer, deeper hue. Ripples move across the surface in soft, languid patterns, echoing the slow passage of time. Amphibians stretch along sun-warmed stones, slipping into cool water only occasionally, creating subtle arcs and circular ripples. Dragonflies hover with minimal motion, their wings beating almost imperceptibly, while tiny fish trace slow, winding paths beneath the water's surface. The overall effect is hypnotic, a gentle, soothing rhythm that mirrors the slow retreat of the sun. Across plains, herbivorous archosaurs shift their movements. Long necks sweep the air as they graze, heads lowering and rising in elongated arcs. Their massive bodies move with slow, rolling steps, creating faint impressions in the soft soil. The herds gradually thin out, scattering into smaller groups that wander in measured, relaxed patterns. Even the soft rustling of leaves and grass underfoot seems elongated, as if the day itself were stretching in time. Predators, too, adopt a slower pace. They stretch and rotate, eyes following distant movements with measured patience. Muscles ripple beneath their skin, controlled and deliberate, reflecting a calm awareness rather than urgency. Each flick of a tail or tilt of a head is executed with quiet intention, reinforcing the serene tempo of the approaching evening. Rivers and streams take on an even softer cadence. Water laps gently against mossy stones, reeds sway in the faint breeze, and aquatic plants drift lazily in slow arcs. Small crustaceans crawl along submerged roots, and amphibians glide through shallow pools, leaving patterns of circular ripples that fade gradually. The interplay of light, water, and movement creates a visual and auditory lullaby, inviting observers to slow their own pace and settle into calm awareness.
Even distant hills appear softened, contours blending into one another as the sun lowers, the world adopting a muted palette of amber, rose, and soft gold. Insects move with decreasing energy, their hums and wing beats slowing in unison with the ambient calm. Moths flutter lazily in angled shafts of light. Dragonflies hover almost motionless, and beetles crawl along branches with subtle deliberation. The combined motions produce a continuous soothing rhythm, both visual and auditory, that enhances the sense of relaxation. As afternoon passes toward evening, the forest floor becomes a mosaic of muted shadows and glowing highlights. The cooling air encourages stretching and subtle movements among all creatures. Herbivores pause more frequently, occasionally lifting heads to sense changes in their environment before resuming their slow grazing. Predators remain watchful but inactive, muscles relaxed, eyes alert in a soft, unhurried focus.
Along rivers and marshes, water reflects the mellowing light, ripples casting elongated shadows and soft reflections. Amphibians slide through reeds and shallow pools with slow precision. Dragonflies skim the surface in minimal motion, tails and wings tracing delicate, hypnotic paths. The gentle sounds of water, movement, and distant calls blend into a continuous lullaby, reinforcing the calming atmosphere. Grasslands and open plains display a similar serenity. Herbivorous archosaurs roam in meandering patterns, heads lowering in long arcs to graze, then rising to shift direction. Small insects rise and fall with the movement of grass blades, drifting lazily with minimal effort. Even the faintest movements, a leaf drifting, a ripple forming in soft soil, are drawn out in slow, harmonious rhythm.
The Triassic afternoon concludes, leaving a serene landscape ready to welcome evening. Water, plants, animals, and air all participate in a slow, harmonious pattern that encourages deep, peaceful relaxation. The land seems to breathe in unison, a gentle exhalation marking the transition from day into dusk. Chapter 20. Twilight and the Onset of Night. As the sun sinks ever lower behind distant hills, the Triassic landscape enters a delicate, hushed phase. Shadows stretch long and soft, merging across plains, forests, and marshes into a seamless blanket of muted shapes. Colors shift subtly, warm golds and ambers fading into soft rose, lavender, and dusky mauve. The air cools, carrying a faint sweetness of damp earth and slow-moving water, inviting all creatures to pause, to breathe, and to move with gentle deliberation. Tree ferns and cycads sway with a lazy rhythm, their fronds brushing against one another in almost imperceptible arcs. Leaves shimmer faintly in the dimming light, catching stray beams of sun and reflecting them as tender glimmers. Beneath the canopies, the forest floor becomes a calm mosaic of shadow and light. Every rustle of a small animal, every careful step of a cautious predator, adds to the quiet orchestration of this early evening symphony. In shallow pools and marshes, the water reflects the transforming sky. Ripples, once energetic and bright in midday warmth, now drift slowly, expanding in soft circles that fade into stillness. Amphibians stir gently, sliding through reeds with near-silent motion. Dragonflies and primitive insects hover briefly in the muted air, wings beating with minimal energy, almost suspended between movement and stillness. Across open plains, herbivorous archosaurs roam in deliberate patterns. Their long necks sweep the air in slow arcs, nostrils catching the faint scents of evening. Massive bodies shift with a rolling, unhurried gait, leaving faint impressions in the cooling soil. They graze with occasional pauses, lifting heads slowly to sense the soft changes in wind or light, before continuing their gentle march across the quiet land. Predators, too, embrace the slower tempo of approaching night. Eyes glow faintly in the dimming light, muscles relaxed yet ready, heads turning with quiet awareness. Every movement is measured, deliberate, part of the soft rhythm that governs this twilight. The interplay of predator and prey is no longer urgent. It has softened into an almost hypnotic dance, each step unfolding in slow motion clarity. Clouds drift lazily across the sky, tinted with lavender, rose, and soft gray. Even distant mountains appear softened, contours blending gently into the horizon. The diminishing light casts everything in a tranquil glow, elongating shapes and smoothing edges. Rivers and streams take on a glassy quality, reflecting muted colors, while ripples travel lazily across their surfaces, forming circles that gradually fade. The forest hums with a low, gentle rhythm. Insects produce faint, intermittent sounds like soft whispers. Leaves rustle in the gentle evening breeze, and distant calls of early nocturnal creatures punctuate the quiet without breaking the calm. Every sound, every movement contributes to the hypnotic, sleep-friendly atmosphere of this emerging night. Grasslands begin to shimmer under the fading light. Individual blades of grass are silhouetted against soft pools of amber and lavender. Small insects drift slowly with the wind, tracing elongated, lazy paths. Herbivores continue grazing, heads moving in slow arcs, while distant predators move silently, each step measured, each gaze deliberate. As the sun dips further below the horizon, temperature drops subtly, carrying the promise of night. Shadows merge into deeper, softer shapes, while colors dim into muted, restful tones. Plants release faint scents, the earthy aroma of moss, ferns, and wet soil blending into the cooling air. Water in streams and marshes becomes a mirror of the twilight sky, undisturbed except for the slow, deliberate ripples caused by gliding amphibians or drifting aquatic plants. Night begins to stir gently. Small nocturnal creatures emerge from burrows, dens, and hidden foliage. Eyes glimmer softly in the dimming light. Movement slow and deliberate, each action part of the hypnotic rhythm of the landscape. Predators adjust their positions, waiting patiently, muscles relaxed, every sense attuned to the soft signals of the emerging evening. Faint wind whispers through the trees, grasses, and reeds, adding a subtle musical undertone to the scene. Every motion, leaf brushing against leaf, ripple passing through water, footstep of a cautious creature, is extended, elongated, and calming. The rhythm of life in this Triassic twilight is drawn out, creating a sense of suspension, a gentle invitation to relax and drift. As stars begin to emerge in the deepening sky, light becomes even softer, blending seamlessly with the shadows below. Reflections on water dim, silhouettes stretch further, and the landscape adopts the quiet, slow-tempoed heartbeat of nightfall. Herbivores pause more frequently, drinking or adjusting positions, while predators move with near imperceptible shifts. Small amphibians and insects maintain their gentle, continuous arcs of motion, contributing to the hypnotic, lullaby-like cadence of the scene. The transition from twilight to early night is gradual, seamless, and serene. The Triassic world embraces its nocturnal rhythm with patience and softness. Every living being, every plant, every movement participates in a slow, flowing pattern that encourages eyes to close, breath to steady, and mind to drift. The air itself seems to carry a lullaby, a whispered promise of calm, rest, and gentle slumber. By the final moments of twilight, the sky deepens into soft indigo, and the first faint stars glimmer. Shadows blend into one another, shapes become softened, and the land hums quietly with life, gentle, unhurried, and perfectly balanced. The stage is set for the full embrace of night, a world in which all movements, sounds, and colors contribute to a hypnotic serenity. Even the distant calls of nocturnal creatures are measured, slow, and soothing, echoing softly across plains, forests, and marshes.
The Triassic twilight concludes with a lingering sense of calm. The land, air, and water have settled into a gentle, hypnotic rhythm, a slow, meditative heartbeat that encourages deep relaxation. The onset of night promises continued serenity as the world transitions fully into the soothing, tranquil tempo of darkness. Chapter 22. The Quiet Dawn of Rest. As the Triassic night winds slowly toward its end, the landscape remains immersed in calm. Shadows are deep, softened, blending forests, marshes, plains, and rivers into one continuous tapestry of quiet. The air is cool and still, carrying faint whispers of water, earth, and plant life. All creatures, large and small, have settled into measured, peaceful rhythms, moving only when necessary, resting in quiet arcs of motion, or breathing deeply in slow, unhurried patterns. The nocturnal symphony gradually softens. Insects hum with diminishing energy. Ripples in water fade into stillness, and the occasional call of a distant creature fades into memory. Even predators have found their places of rest, muscles relaxed, eyes closed or half shut, perfectly attuned to the gentle tempo of life around them. The forest, the plains, the marshes, and the rivers exist in a suspended state of calm, a world perfectly aligned with the rhythm of sleep and rest.
Water reflects the faintest hints of pre-dawn light, a soft glow stretching across smooth, undisturbed surfaces. Ripples that linger slowly fade, leaving a mirrored stillness that soothes the mind. Amphibians and small fish glide with minimal motion, almost imperceptible, leaving delicate arcs that vanish as quickly as they appear. Even the air seems to slow, carrying scents of damp earth, wet ferns, and fresh water in soft, drifting layers that calm and steady the senses. Large herbivores begin to shift subtly, rolling onto sides or stretching long necks in gentle motions. Their movements are measured, deliberate, and slow, echoing the calm heartbeat of the world. Predators remain at rest, muscles relaxed, breathing slow and steady, perfectly in tune with the surrounding quiet. Life itself seems to take a slow, deep breath, a universal exhale after a long, soft night. Trees, ferns, and cycads sway gently in the lightest whisper of wind. Leaves brush together in near-silent arcs, blending motion and sound into a hypnotic, meditative rhythm. Grasslands ripple in soft waves, individual blades catching what little starlight remains before fading into the gentle gray of pre-dawn. Every motion, no matter how small, contributes to the calming pulse of a world at rest. As the first hints of light touch the horizon, they do so softly, gradually, without urgency. Colors are muted, gentle and soothing. Soft lavenders, faint rose, and the palest amber brush the sky. Shadows retreat slowly, elongating and blending into soft gradients that soothe the eye. The world seems to breathe in these moments, inhaling gently, stretching softly, preparing to transition without disturbance from night to day. In the final stillness of pre-dawn, all sounds are slow and faint. The last whispers of nocturnal life fade into quiet. Ripples vanish, leaves settle, insects rest. Every creature, every plant, every body of water participates in the slow cadence of life winding down. Time itself feels elongated, gentle, and suspended, inviting deep calm and complete relaxation. And as the Triassic night fully gives way to the faint, tender light of early dawn, the ancient world rests, perfectly calm, perfectly measured, and perfectly serene. Eyes can close, breaths can deepen, minds can drift along the soft, flowing rhythm of life as it existed 250 million years ago. This is the last chapter of the journey, a final embrace of tranquility, a lingering lullaby from a world long past, leaving only peace, stillness, and gentle sleep.